All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking NFL football, and it is the AFC side of the playoff bracket for the NFL. Hey, we usually talk college football all year long, but it's that time. We got to shift over to the NFL when the playoffs start. So I'm always joined by my co-host, the man who is well aware of the steel triangle. Hey, it's part of the AFC. My co-host, Fresh. Fresh, how you doing?
Haps, I'm doing great. NFL playoffs is probably some of the craziest stuff you ever see. Games are down the wire, players take it to the next level, and there's always some controversy or crazy upset happen, and that has everybody glued in and ready to go. And I can't wait for this weekend.
Fresh, I probably should have Urban Dictionary steel triangle before I used that on air, just to make sure I didn't say anything inappropriate. But
probably should have, but you know what? Roll with it.
Do you know what the steel triangle is?
Is that Buffalo, Cleveland, somewhere in there?
One more. Triangle's three places, Fresh. AFC steel triangle.
Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Cleveland.
There you go. The one that's named Steelers. All right, Fresh, let's go to the first game in the AFC. It's on Saturday at 4:30 p.m. It's the Cleveland Browns traveling down to Houston. At time of record, Cleveland is a 2.5 favorite. Over under is set at 44.5 right there. Browns and faced the Texans earlier in the season a few weeks ago and kind of boat raced them there, but no CJ Stroud. How do you see this one going, Fresh?
I mean, first off, what Joe Flacco has done for the Browns, is as legendary right now, I think, in Cleveland in circles. The way that team is sort of struggling, obviously Watson get hurt, PJ Walker and trying to plug and play him, and DTR coming in. Flacco brought stability. He brought energy to the team and to the offense. You see Amari Cooper and Njoku, the way that they've sort of taken off and become much more of a threat in that passing game. Things that actually we all sort of thought that would happen with Watson there. We're seeing it with Flacco. The team is just playing with a vibe, and he's done that. The defense has gone through injuries, but Myles Garrett and those guys are still playing at a very, very elite level. The kind of the defense I think Cleveland Browns fans had envisioned for the past few years. They've all sort of brought it together under that Jim Schwartz philosophy, and that's it's held them together with all the offensive injuries, and then Flacco has been able to get that offense finally going down the stretch when it matters. So I'm really excited for what Cleveland has and where they've come from. They are the 5 seed. They had the basically playoff seed wrapped up 2 weeks ago. Who would have thought? But the way they've been able to carry themselves, and I think going back to the middle of the year when they beat the 49ers, sort of asserted themselves that we might not have a stable quarterback right now at that time, but our defense is elite to play at a high level. We can just find some offense, we'll be good. On the other side, what CJ Stroud has done, and I think CJ Stroud, D'Amico Ryans is the head coach, Will Anderson Jr., getting all those pieces together and getting them to play in the same direction when they were expected to be terrible, learning curves and all that fun stuff. It's been a major accomplishment. It just shows you what a good quarterback means to a football team, but momentum and pride and togetherness and someone who inspires some sort of guys to play at the next level. D'Amico Ryans, what he has brought to that entire franchise has infused them with a focus of, we can win. And we're not just going to be the Texans. We're going to be able to really put some fear in somebody. And CJ Stroud having the freedom to play, whether it's Nico Collins at wide receiver, drafting Tank Dell and seeing him have success until he gets hurt, Noah Brown being a contributor, Dalton Schultz at tight end, and Singletary at running back. They found guys who were either cast-offs or hadn't really developed or were unknowns, kind of raw, and they put them all together, and they don't know any better, so they're playing at a high level. I think that's the scary part coming into the playoff game is that nobody expects them to be here. They have nothing to lose, and they can sort of play a little loose and free. Actually, the pressure is on the Browns because the Browns have seen so much more success and have dominated them a couple of weeks ago, albeit without CJ Stroud. I think this actually might be the most competitive game of the 3 AFC wildcard games this weekend because both these teams are fun and young and exciting in key areas, and they bring a lot of high offense. I expect Amari Cooper and Njoku and then Ford and Hunt to really be serious contributors offensively with Joe Flacco at the helm. On the other side, CJ is going to come out there and start slinging it around. I think the Browns have the better defense, and that's going to be the deciding factor in this football game. I think Myles Garrett's going to be able to get after the quarterback. But this game will be like a 31-30, 27-24 kind of ball game. It will be the most exciting, most competitive of the 3 games all weekend. but the Browns will prevail and move on to the divisional round, excuse me.
Fresh, there is a phenomenal singer by the name of Michael Stanley, and he has great words of advice on this. He wrote a song called Here We Go Again, and I'm just going to say we all got memories of the things we did, like the old dog pound and the cardiac kids, but we're going to make some new ones in a brand new crib because here we go again. This has been a phenomenal season as a Browns fan. Like, I've enjoyed this ride thoroughly, folks. If you didn't know, I'm a Browns fan. I'm born and raised about 45 minutes outside of Cleveland. And my childhood was ripped out from me when Art Modell, you can go to hell. When you took the team from Cleveland to Baltimore, and I really have just enjoyed this so much because it's been 20 plus years of rough season after rough season, a couple of nice glimpses, but Stefanski's got this team in the mantra of going every single week, we're going 1-0. You take a look, they've started 5 quarterbacks throughout this season, and you take a look at what could have happened. No Nick Chubb since week 2. You've missed games. Different key players have missed games. Joe Flacco was on the couch when they called him and said, hey, would you like to play quarterback for the Cleveland Browns? It's like the scene from Major League. Hey, would you like to coach the Indians? I don't know. I've got a guy on the other line about some white walls. And that kind of is what you have with Joe Flacco there. But I really think, Fresh, that Flacco's kind of steadied the presence for the Browns. He is performed admirably. He's fresh because he only played half the year. But it's going to come down to the defense. If the defense and what Jim Schwartz has done from last year's personnel to this year's personnel defensively for the Browns, and especially freeing up Myles Garrett and allowing Myles Garrett to show that he is one of the best, if not the best defensive player in the National Football League, I think CJ Stroud's going to be running for his life in this game. I think that's where the difference is going to make, especially with a rookie quarterback. Rookie quarterbacks normally struggle when they get to the playoff. There are some exceptions to that rule. Don't get me wrong. Go ahead, light me up in the comments section. Say, well, such and such rookie threw for 500 yards. Whatever. I don't care. More times than not, the rookie quarterbacks struggle in this. And especially when you have a defensive end like a Myles Garrett, Z over there going after him. And then you can see you have the MJ Emerson, Denzel Ward. You got Newsom over there out as well, being able to cover as well as they do. I think it's going to give the Cleveland defense is going to give them a lot of problems in there. I got this game as like a 21-10 type of game here. I got Cleveland winning. Obviously, I'm going to choose my Browns here because it was 1950 in the cold and rain when my father took me to my very first game. Come on, Fresh. You got to learn some Michael Stanley. All right. I messed up the lyric, though, and said dad instead of father. But, yeah, I got Browns winning this one.
Well, I've got to give you credit. Folks, back at the draft, Seth was very adamant about the Browns are making the playoffs. And with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, I had some serious doubts because he didn't look good the year before and he'd been out of the game for a while. Here they are in the playoffs as a 5 seed. It's impressive. And, you knew it. You had that called well in advance.
Yeah, well, I also have some blind, irrational confidence on my Brownies.
That also is a fact.
Yeah. All right, Fresh, let's go to the second game on Saturday. This is on Peacock, I guess, or NBC?
On Peacock exclusive. Peacock exclusive.
Oh, that's going to be fun to find. All right, we got the Miami Dolphins traveling to Arrowhead. It is going to be cold, 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 so make sure you have your booties out there. They're talking about negative temperatures there in Arrowhead. Kansas City, currently at time of record, is a 4.5 point favor in this game. Over-under is set at 44.5. I feel like every football game is 44.5 is like the go-to NFL over-under. Miami's been a different team away from South Florida, and the Chiefs haven't been the same team that we've seen for the last 2 or 3 years as they've competed for Super Bowl after Super Bowl. What do you got for Miami versus Kansas City?
We all know it's Tyreek Hill's first trip back to Kansas City, so he's going to want to do whatever he can to put on a show. But what will Tua do? This is a big game. And if you've seen anything from Dolphins this year and last year, when they play good teams, they suck. Outside of beating the Cowboys 22-20 this year at home on Christmas Eve, every time they played a legit good football team, they get beat. And then on top of that, they lost to the Titans. This team is not. They don't play well with good teams. They beat up on a bunch of bad teams or average football teams, and then when they go play a legit team, they get thumped. And that has me really questioning. They're more of like a finesse basketball team, but when you start getting in the lane, they don't have anyone down low to rebound. They could just shoot a bunch of threes, so they don't have anyone playing the low post. This is a very finesse, fancy football team. They don't want to get hit. They have fast guys. That's great. Waddle, A-Chain, Mostert, Tyreek Hill, and they can be explosive on the field, but are they tough enough to win in a nitty-gritty weather football game like this? I have some serious doubts. This is going to really test the mentality of Mike McDaniel and the entire football team of, you guys look great on paper, and you might rue the day of losing to the Bills last week and losing a home playoff game in Miami and now having to go on the road to Kansas City. This is a big struggle for them, and I don't trust the defense either. They've had a lot of injuries. They have a couple guys not playing that were key. And where's that depth of concern going to come into play in what I think is going to be a very physical football game in Kansas City on Saturday night? The Chiefs, they have been out of funk. They obviously don't have a legit receiver. They didn't have a legit receiver until Rashee Rice kind of got in the fold late this year outside of Kelsey. Kelsey's definitely not been his form this year. Been dropping some passes. But outside of Kelsey and Rice, Mahomes doesn't trust anyone. MVS is good for at least 2 drops a game. Tony's good for 2 drops a game. Sky Moore is lost in the sky somewhere. It's 2 players. And if those 2 guys aren't out there getting open and catching passes, Mahomes is by himself. So it means they're going to have to rely on Isaiah Pacheco all night long. And that dude runs like a Tasmanian devil and runs people over. He's coming out just hitting everything possible. He's got to be healthy, and he's going to have a strong football game to really give this offense some life and be able to compete. Number one, to keep the Miami offense on the sideline and let them sort of sit there and be cold. But number 2, be physical. Make the Dolphins defense quit and win the football game late. This is going to be an ugly, low-scoring football game because guys are going to be cold. It's going to be beat up, throw it up. I think like a 17-10, 20-13 game maybe. It's going to be ugly. There's going to be a lot of turnovers. The Chiefs will end up winning because they're at home, and I think they have a better overall defense. And the defense with Chris Jones leading it, that's going to lead the way. This is a different Chiefs football team. It's not the high explosive that hopes the defense can hold somebody. The defense leads this football team, and I think they've actually kind of embraced that, where you know what? We're going to go in there. We're going to give up 10 points or less. Just give us 13 or more on offense and don't turn it over, and we'll win the football game. It'll be ugly. It'll be nasty. It'll be really, really cold. The Chiefs will squeak by and win, and we'll get to see Mahomes finally go on the road next weekend in the divisional round.
Yeah, Fresh. The Chiefs this year is kind of weird. They're 5-4 at home this season, and the thing that really popped off at me was how well opposing teams have been able to run the football against Kansas City this season. You take a look, they're averaging 4.5 yards a carry right now, and opposing teams have almost rushed for almost 2,000 yards on the Kansas City defense this season. I think that may be in the playoffs, especially in NFL football, you have to be able to run the ball in the playoffs, especially when it's really cold outside, when those temperatures get into the negatives there. Yeah, Tyreek Hill is going to be fast no matter what weather here, but he's a former player. You're going to know his strengths. You're going to know his weaknesses. You take a look at what Miami's been able to do when running the ball. Take a look at Mostert and A-Train there. You take a look at both of them. They've been phenomenal at running the football. I think that could give Kansas City a lot of problems if they can get going. If Kansas City can stop the run, they're going to win this football game. And that's really what it's going to come down to for me. I'll say this. Mahomes is probably going to have 2 or 3 touchdowns in this one. I think he's going to play really, really well. But I am legit concerned for him if he's got to go on the road next week. I didn't love what I saw from Kansas City. I watched a couple of Kansas City games later in the season. They found a way always to be on whatever game I was watching. And it just seemed like something was off this season. So I got Kansas City winning this football game. Give me them 24-17 in this as well. I think Miami will put up some points. But in the end, I think you get a nice home field advantage there with Arrowhead.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is this Tua's first ever playoff game? Because last year he was out when they went up to Buffalo, and
I believe so.
I don't think they went to playoffs. They didn't go to the playoffs in 21 or 20. So this is Tua's first ever playoff start in Arrowhead. Good luck, buddy. Good luck.
Right. Tough place to play. All right, Fresh. Let's go to our last AFC football game. This one is going to be on CBS. This one's on Sunday, early morning. It's the 1 o'clock kickoff on Sunday. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers traveling to Buffalo, New York. No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. At the time of record, Buffalo is a 10-point favorite in this game. That's a lot of points for a playoff game.
A lot of points.
And over-under, over-under set 36.5. Is it the Mason Rudolph factor? Is it? I don't even know what's going on with the Steelers, but they wind up, Mike Tomlin gets them into the playoffs again. Another year, another playoff berth by Pittsburgh, but their fan base wants to fire him or get rid of him somehow, some way. And then Buffalo, people kind of counted out the Buffalo Bills midway through this year, and look what they did. Wound up winning the AFC East.
Both these teams have been very, kind of similar, where they've had a lot of ups and downs, very inconsistent play, turnover prone on offense, gritted it through. Both have had some injuries, and yet they're both have won double-digit ball games. At times they've looked terrible on the field, and at times they looked really, really good. It's just been really, really weird to see. Maybe it's expectations for both these, franchises where we're expected to see recently the Bills be really good, and the Steelers always being a staple of consistency, the staple of winning, and their play on the field looks so terrible. And you're kind of like, this is not the same Steelers. But late after firing Matt Canada, they found some offense. Mason Rudolph running the ball with Najee Harris, him and Ward really starting to really pick up late down the stretch. And then George Pickens showing off explosive plays. I think even week 16 and week 17, just taking off like a shot and really showing his athletic ability. Deontay Johnson being more effective. That offense has sort of find its groove late, which does make the Steelers dangerous if Mason Rudolph can play within the offensive system. He's actually given them some life. Obviously, you still continue to say, Kenny Pickett, you're healthy, but you're the number 2, which has me doubting the quarterback situation going forward. So how does this offense show up in this football game and continue to keep riding that wave that they've been on the month of December and January? Defensively, TJ Watt's not playing. They've dealt with some injuries at linebacker all over the place. This could potentially be, Hayward's last game as he might retire. There's rumors of that. Fitzpatrick's been beat up a lot this year. Patrick Peterson's still there, but how much longer is he going to keep playing? This is kind of like you see the uniforms, but how many of those guys are actually out there that are true, legit Steeler defensive players? Can they show up for one more time and stop a very good offense in Buffalo? Looking at the Bills, Josh Allen, can you stop turning the dang ball over, dude? Seriously. You're giving it away like Skittles. Let it go, dude. Hold the ball, protect the ball. I know risk reward is there and you want to play like Brett Favre, but you keep doing this, it's going to cost you. It should have cost you versus the Dolphins in the last week of the season, but it didn't. You got lucky. You keep talking about wanting to get the Super Bowl and getting the Bills back. You've been so close. Eventually, you've got to start protecting the football and stop putting your team in some bad situations. Control yourself. Stephon Diggs, get him involved. Feed Dalton Kincaid. Obviously, Gabe Davis is not playing. He might be not playing, might play, might not play. He's been beat up all year. You've got to find somebody else in the offense. And then offensively, outside of Josh Allen, there's games where you go away from James Cook. And 1 week he has an amazing football game. He's getting tons of touches. The next week, you don't even give him the ball. This inconsistency using probably your best weapon outside of Josh Allen is worrisome from that play calling perspective. Feed James Cook. You obviously have Leonard Fournette as your number 2. Run the ball, save Josh Allen, keep him from hurting the team, keep him from hurting himself with the turnovers. Then Stephon Diggs can be built in off of play action. But you've got to sort of get a refocus of that offense because you might be able to survive this game, but going next week and the week after, if you get that far, these mistakes are going to become, tougher to survive if you keep making them. Get better. You guys have sort of, run the wave. You dominated the Cowboys. We've all seen you can play at a high level, but the game versus the Dolphins was kind of like, A couple other games down the stretch, you're kind of like, you won, but it really wasn't sexy. You just sort of survived. Where is this team's focus And can they withstand now the gauntlet of the playoff run? Defensively, they got a bunch of guys out there who have as the season's gone on, gotten better on McDermott. And I think if Von Miller, if you're getting paid, time for you to step up and make some plays on that field and help this Bills defense. At home, I think Buffalo's riding a wave. I think they go in here and take care of business in this ball game. The Steelers just don't have enough to get through, I don't think, in this case. Buffalo wins, but it's going to be ugly. They'll survive. I think Allen will have 2 turnovers, but they'll still win like a 24-10 ball game. But Josh Allen will be costly and he'll keep it a ball game until about the third quarter when eventually the Bills run away with it.
So you like the Bills to cover that 10 spot?
I think the Bills will cover it late because I think the offense for Pittsburgh, Mason Rudolph will show his true colors and they'll let them down.
Let me give you some X factors, Fresh, not to just regurgitate what you've said, because I agree with everything that you said in regards to Pittsburgh. I've seen enough Mason Rudolph there that I know what I'm going to get out of him. If Pittsburgh's going to win this football game, and it's going to take a Herculean effort for them, but they need an X factor like a Jaylen Warren to have like a special game. Najee Harris has been the lead back this entire season, and he's played well. But then you take a look at a guy like Warren, who has the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, 61 receptions on the year coming out of the backfield. He could be one of those people that really maybe kind of challenges Buffalo. If Buffalo really does put, hey, we're going to really put our focus on a George Pickens or Deontay Johnson going down the field, that's when a person like Warren could be a huge X factor for the Steelers to really, make a difference in this football game. When TJ Watt was not playing in this game, he's the heart and soul of that Steelers defense, man. He's not going to be in this one. So I think that when you lose your heart, especially on the defensive side, I know that the Steeler culture there is very, very strong, and it's kind of this great culture that these guys just step up and play really hard. But again, we've talked about, I hate the football speak of next man up because I think it's extremely disrespectful to the player that went down because, I'm going to tell you, the backups for Pittsburgh aren't TJ Watt, and they're not that great. They're not that great. They might be good. They might have a good game, but they don't perform at TJ Watt's level. As for Buffalo, I think Buffalo has just had this remarkable run. You go back to end of November, that overtime loss to Philadelphia. We see a different Buffalo team come out after that game. They're on a 5-game win streak in here. Take a look at a guy. Everyone wants to put the focus on Josh Allen, but I think the real difference maker is a guy like James Cook. In years prior, Josh Allen was the leading rusher for the Bills. And now you have a legit rushing attack with James Cook. And a guy who can handle the work, he can handle the carries. He had a remarkable year. Would have liked to see, Josh Allen not vulture as many touchdowns from him, especially during fantasy football season. But, hey, I had James Cook this year, and I saw great player for them. I think he could be the difference maker. Stephon Diggs is one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. We were a huge fan of Kincaid coming out. He had just a remarkable year as a rookie this year. But again, you're right, Fresh. It's going to come down to it. Josh Allen, I think he can handle 2 turnovers in the game. Anything more than 2, all of a sudden this is going to get real interesting for the Steelers. I'm also going to agree with you, Fresh. I think Buffalo covers the 10 late, but I think that this eventually gets out of hand as we go further and further into the football game. No TJ Watt, Mason Rudolph as the quarterback, unless something really happens where Buffalo just can't get out of their own way. I got the Bills advancing to the next round.
Well, I think the only way that Steelers make this a ball game, if we talk about Ward and Najee Harris, 2 running backs who've had a solid, back end of the year,
right? That
Buffalo secondary can be had. If they Russell Douglas, they traded for him, he got banged up versus the Dolphins. If George Pickens, he's a big play, big explosive guy, if he can get loose in the secondary and they hit a couple big touchdowns, it puts a little shock in the system. Like, all right, we can play with Buffalo. They need to focus in on watching him. Deontay Johnson's more of a possession receiver. Pickens is the deep guy. If they start taking some shots and hit on some of those shots and make explosive plays, maybe turn a couple of touchdowns, then this is a ball game. But that's where I think the Steelers are going to take their shots. You got nothing to lose. Nobody expects you to win. Go in there, launch some, take 25, 35, 40-yard shots. Go test that Buffalo secondary and see if you can hit some big touchdowns. If you can, if it's quick strike, number one, quick strike puts a shock in the other team, and then it really puts the pressure on Buffalo. It's like now you actually have to turn it around. You've got to come score some touchdowns. You cannot turn the ball over. You've got to play flawless the rest of the way because we're going to hit ones on you all night long.
Right. Fresh, I was really, really hoping Saturday they are calling for some snow up in Buffalo there, and only 30% chance of snow on Sunday. I was really hoping we get treated to a snow game early here in the playoffs because those always make such a better NFL playoff game.
Snow playoff games are legendary just because it adds an extra element that is not normal to the environment.
Absolutely. All right, folks, before you head out of here, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episode because this is the AFC playoff picture. Hey, we still got to record and drop the NFC playoff picture. So make sure you hit that record button or that subscribe button as we're recording here. And visit spinnablesports.com because the Irrational Confidence podcast is part of spinnablesports.com. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible, so we appreciate him, all the hard work he does all season long to get these videos out to you guys. And follow us on social media, on the X, on the Twitter, whatever it's called these days. Interact with us, leave us comments, tell us we don't know what we're talking about, or if you want to hear me sing more Michael Stanley. I know you don't, but it's okay. Fresh, I'll send you videos of Michael Stanley.
I'm looking forward to that. Everybody, enjoy Super Wildcard Weekend. Oh, and buy in, engage with us on Twitter, engage with us through the YouTube comments. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye, y'all.